Good morning, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a moment as we have everyone join us. So give us just another couple of minutes and we'll get started.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Steve. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks for joining us. And good morning again, everyone who's joining us on the webinar. We're going to get started in just a moment. We're getting our Facebook sharing started, and then we'll be off and running. If you're just joining us again, my name is Garrett Sheehan. I'm the President and CEO of Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce and Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. We're going to get started in just a moment. Well, good morning again, and thank you to everyone who's on the line with us. I know we have a lot of people who have joined the webinar. We also have many more who are joining us on Facebook as well, so thank you. I want to start by thanking the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce and Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce members who help support us put on these programs. Also, today's webinar is sponsored by AMS Practice Management. And let me just ask panelists to introduce themselves as we get started, and then I'll unmute you and start talking. We do have a big panel this morning. AMS is recruiters, sponsors of today's webinar. They focus on temporary and direct hiring in healthcare, manufacturing, law, and finance roles. So AMS is our community information partner for this morning's webinar. We appreciate their support. Also, we want to thank all of our streaming partners out there: Central Connecticut Chambers of Commerce, Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce, Milford Regional Chamber of Commerce, and the Bridgeport Regional Business Council, and also all of our investors in the Chamber who help us put on all of the programming that we do throughout the course of the year. And you can see all of their logos on our screen. So I want to get started. Today's webinar really is about starting to think about the restart. Obviously, we're still in the depths of the situation with the coronavirus, but so many of our businesses have been so negatively impacted, but many of them are still open to some degree, and we're starting to learn some new things, some innovative things that we can apply as we try to start to get this economy up and running again. So again, we have a great panel. I'm going to go to each of them individually, but I'm going to start first with Mike Piscatelli from the city of New Haven, and Mike's already been thinking about how we start to make that restart. And then we'll take your questions and answers as we go through after we've heard from each of our panel members. So Mike, why don't you start us off?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Garrett, for pulling this very important conversation together. I'm trying to get more of the webinars, and certainly now, as the city and the state as a whole starts to make this transition from direct COVID response to a managed period of response with reopening. And the Chamber's leadership has been nothing short of outstanding. Together with our, what we call the Together New Haven partnership, we have all of the organizations involved with economic development working together to try to better organize and assist the business community and workers who have been so deeply affected by the crisis and the pandemic. And everyone's additional sacrifice does not go unnoticed. And I think you're seeing that manifest as some of the great work in our healthcare system. And that lays the foundation for us to restart. On the city side, just to give you a sense for it, we're going to take a lot of direction and lead from the state's Reopen Task Force. You've heard the governor talk specifically about reopening in tandem with everyone in our region. Garrett and others locally are going to play a very important role with all of us as we set forth the clinical process and the protocol that will allow us to reopen in very measured steps. I think other people have said it much better about there won't be a light switch, but there'll be a series of very protocols, proactive steps that will allow us to bounce back. And I would just share with you, as we have a series of local working groups that Mayor Elicker has asked us to put together to plan that out and map it in a way that supports both our small businesses and our residents. And I just wanted to give you just a couple of observations and welcome additional thought and comment from this group about those observations. First and foremost, I think we need to focus on market confidence, both with our employees coming back into the workplace and with our customers. New Haven is a city, as you know, our strength is in academics, healthcare, and innovation. These are sectors of strength for us, and we do a meaningful amount of work in our community on the basis of collaboration. So everything we can do to build confidence in bringing back collaboration will be very, very important. Second, I'm sure you're seeing it in the news, and Mayor Elicker has talked about it quite a bit, as well as our Board of Alders. This has not been an equitable crisis. Many people can work at home. Many people are digitally connected. Many are not. And we're seeing that in positive cases in our neighborhoods of need, and we're seeing it in inequities with our public schools and in other areas. So as a strong business community, everything we could do to support equity and inclusion as we bounce back will be very, very important. And then last, I think this was sort of a side observation, but I think it's one that we would like everyone to reflect on, is the pandemic like this with so many closures and the vacancy that is created almost calls on all of us to figure out ways to rebuild community warmth and the ability to collaborate and be together again. And a lot of that's happening online. And as we open back up, how do we rebuild warmth as a community? And that's a very open-ended question. And the panelists today, in addition to their prepared remarks, I think all bring great value and insight into those very specific side parts of the conversation, right? We're gonna talk about cleaning and workplace safety, but let's also talk about the strategy that's associated with a strong bounce back after such a grueling crisis that we've all gone through. And with that, I wanted to thank you again. Looking forward to today's conversation and the follow-up.
I'm muted, sorry about that. I'm gonna start, thank you, Mike, appreciate it. I'm gonna start with Steve Beusk with Shell and Bones. And Steve, I hope I didn't brutalize your last name there, but I know you're also Director of Operations for Geronimo. We've heard a lot about restaurants. We know the restaurants have taken one of the biggest hits through all of this, but many have turned to takeout, other options. I know there's also a program being built up in New Haven around supporting hospital workers and others. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your restaurants have been doing through this?
So, I mean, it's definitely been a challenge to pivot our business. Obviously, being so intense on customer service, we've really had to try to sort of maintain that idea of customer service while just pivoting to the, takeout model. So, Shell and Bones originally had closed, and then we have reopened. We're doing takeout on the weekends, and then we're slowly building our business as Michael, that you said, that market confidence is starting to come back, and people are trying to, we've had an outpouring of support from all of our loyal customers, and we're very grateful for that. But it has been challenging for sure, and we've had to kind of be nimble and creative about how we're, marketing ourselves. Obviously, in restaurants, I mean, the assumption is, and the truth is that we are all bound to be sanitary and clean by the health department anyway. So, there's that confidence there, I think. But in terms of our business model, we've had to do some sort of clever marketing and things like that to keep people involved and engaged.
But it's been a challenge for sure. To kind of change gears a little bit, to talk about Geronimo, because we've been doing takeout all along. Geronimo, the food, especially, works well for carryout. So we've been participating in Food for the Front Lines, which, along with several other restaurants, we help to provide food for all of these first responders that are, now just working around the clock to help all these COVID patients. So, and that cause kind of resonates with me personally, because I grew up, my mother is an OR nurse. And so, for us to help those programs is kind of a no-brainer, because it just, it hits home for me, and I just talked to my mother last night, and, it's crazy out there. It is real. For anybody that doesn't, know that it's real, it is for real. It is really happening. And, everybody's just doing their best. And my hat goes off to all of the first responders out there.
Great. Well, Steve, I appreciate it. We'll come back to you in a few moments, because I do want to talk to you about any thoughts you have about how you're going to set up the restaurants going forward, just because it's so much of an experience that at both of your locations. But we'll come back to you in a couple minutes and we'll go through some of the other panelists first. Roberta, I'll turn to you. You're in the real estate industry. You do a lot around real estate education as well. How has your business changed? How have you operated over the last several weeks?
Thank you very much, Garrett. Well, I'm not sure how many people know, but Connecticut has deemed real estate an essential business, which means that we're still in operation, which we did have to make a lot of changes with the way that we service our clients. For example, we have done a lot of technology with virtual showing. So in the past, we will say, oh, do you want to show a property? And then we would just make a meeting and then go out and show the property with the client. But now we're utilizing virtual showings, which is going great. The other thing is, when we are showing a person a property, or when we're listing a property, we're required to have a mask and gloves with interactions, all interactions, even with our clients. We are not allowing any prospective buyers to enter into anyone's homes or touch anything for that matter. And they have to have their hands and their gloves and their mask on. And real estate is taking a toll, because of course everyone is dealing with the confidence issue, right? And the fear factor, that is a real thing. The fear factor is huge, and it's impacting each and every one of our businesses. The other thing is that we're directly linked to the mortgage industry. And because of the financial crisis, and some of the mortgages and some of the banks are unable to make loans at this time, it hurts in many ways, semi-cripples the real estate market until we are able to get those real estate, those mortgage loans pushed back through, where we understand right now that may not be the priority, as many banks are occupied with the stimulus and managing the stimulus money for the businesses. So we're still able to navigate. It is taking a little bit longer. We are relying a lot on technology to make this happen. I'm very grateful that we have DocuSign, where we can do contracts without being in person. And we have escrow deposits, we have wire deposits, so we're able to do a lot of business without having to have person-to-person transactions. So I am very grateful that our business is still able to run. I have been one of the people that the governor has chosen to be part of the Reopen Connecticut Business Committee, and I'm honored to serve on that committee amongst, Garrett and about 14 other people. And with this honor and with this charge to come up with a strategy to reopen the businesses, and that we had a meeting, and it was an amazing meeting, Gary, you know that. And it's just that the strategy has to be so thorough because of all of the obstacles that we're facing as business owners. And, what I did and what I've been doing since this pandemic is really pausing. And I challenge everyone to do the same thing. Pause, reflect, and then pivot. So when you pause, you take the time to really think about what has happened, what is going on, what are the things that are going well, what are not going well, how is it impacted? You're reflecting on those things. And then after we reflect, then we can make the necessary changes, then we pivot. A lot of times prior to COVID that we're running, and we're not pausing, reflecting, and making the changes to our business. I happen to have the thought process of thinking that we have great opportunity in this time, great opportunities to reevaluate our businesses, great opportunities to make it become what it needs to be for the 21st century. I think that we have great opportunity at this time if we take the time to simply pause. Pause meaning put everything on hold, reflect on your businesses, reflect on what's going well, reflect on what people are doing, and then make those necessary pivots. I think we're in a great situation going forward, but we are in the process of putting together strategies and that have to be executed as perfectly as possible. So thank you for the opportunity, Garrett.
No, great points, Roberta. Thank you. We'll come back to you in a few minutes. Sherry Helgett is Director of HR with C. Coles and Company in North Haven. And Sherry and I have talked several times on another essential business that has been open, still manufacturing, and a lot of things that come in play, Sherry, just even with your employees and keeping them safe and able to work.
Absolutely. Just starting when this whole pandemic started, we just started the early communication with all of our employees and felt that that was very important. The memo from the president, doing postings throughout the actual business, and talking to the employees and getting the feel for, you know, how they're feeling. And obviously everybody was changing by the minute. But we also tried to be proactive, and in the early onset, we tried to get anything safety related, get them on order, because we knew that the Lysol wipes, the hand sanitizer, the masks, all of those were going to be very difficult to actually receive. Another thing that we did and implemented right away was we had every single day, we had our maintenance staff disinfecting, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the vending machines, and thinking of all those key points where all of our employees are going every day, the mail machines, the fax machines. The other thing that we implemented right away was we did obviously the social distancing, where we put labels on the floor, and how quickly it changed from they're standing 6 feet apart and we're realizing they're punching the clock and not using the hand sanitizer. So we quickly changed that process and immediately stopped them punching in and went on the honor system. And that has worked out very well for us. So then we're not even remotely close to each other, and also not touching the clock every single hour or every time they punch out. The other thing that we did was we identified right away who is able to work from home from our business. We have a very large factory, and we have a pretty spread out office as well. So what we did was all of our engineers are currently working from home. Our purchasing and our marketing departments are about 50%. And then the few people in the office and our customer service, we had empty cubicles. We were able to separate them apart. And so that worked out very well. So most of our staff is actually here. Our factory, we have a 200,000 square foot facility. So all in all, who's getting close to each other is actually the assembly lines. And we obviously put things in place. Now everyone is required to wear the mask, as well as we encourage them, and we do as well, wiping down their stations in the beginning and the end of the day. So that was very important. Then we decided thought it was very important to start with the temperature testing. So we created a little temperature station with plexiglass and had a hole through the plexiglass. So each morning I'm coming in at 6 a.m. and taking everyone's temperature. But we also had to think about what is our plan. So if someone tests over 100.4, what are we going to do? if someone tells us they were exposed, if someone tested positive. So we, as a management team, pulled together and put all those steps in place. And luckily, we have not had anyone over 100.4 to date. We have not tested positive, so we're very happy with that. But we really have, I believe, have implemented many different avenues, from encouraging the, social distancing to the washing your hands. We have Lysol wipes throughout the building. We have hand sanitizer throughout the building. Everyone is really working well as a team. And what I really appreciate our employees is, I think they appreciate that they're actually working, not having to worry about the unemployment. And then, from there, just keep communicating and make sure that your employees know that you're there, and we're doing everything that we can to keep them safe.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Let me turn now to Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design. And Ramon, I've seen a lot of you on social media, and you're always thinking of ways to get the messaging out, but now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it was kind of a transition to being remote ready. Right now, we're 100% working remotely. One of our differentiators were, as an agency, as a creative agency, that we had a full-time staff, and we had a great office space. We still do in the Cinto complex here in Shelton. But it was in early March where one of our team members came in to work with a mask on, and the rest of us just weren't there yet, where he was. But over the period of a few weeks, we knew this was coming, and we tried to be ahead of the curve. And we started to transition some team members out of the office gradually. So some folks even took some computers home. We did some dry runs. And then by the time the governor had made the announcement, we were down to just having our admin stay in the office, kind of holding down the fort. But fortunately for us, as has been shared, we were deemed essential. Many of our clients were essential. We're supporting United Way in New York City, Valley United Way, Modern Plastics. And so we had a record busy month of March. But in the beginning, it was kind of quelling the fears of our team and looking inward. Many on our team, especially the last ones hired, felt like they were, on the chopping block. A lot of insecurity, a lot of fear. And so we had to reassure our own team. I had to, and say, hey, let's throw ourselves into service. How can we help others? We have a lot of work to do. We're not going anywhere. So we were fully operational and really focused on just kind of getting the team feeling reassured. And so daily, we used to have a weekly staff meeting every Monday. Now we have one every morning. Everybody on the team wears company gear, right? It's done wonders for us to just have a badge or have a logo on your shirt, because even though we're all working remotely, when we see each other on Zoom and we see the gear, or even if it's something red, just makes you feel like you're together in spirit. So something that simple. We've invested in backdrops for some team members that didn't have the most ideal setup, because we want to continue to give our customers that premium experience, professional experience, kind of like even if you're home, dress for work kind of a thing. And we've been doing a lot of kind of helping others. So putting out even more content, giving free workshops. We set up an online portal for COVID resources. We're offering free COVID alert bars for even folks that aren't customers. So throwing ourselves into service also helped alleviate everybody's fears, because we felt like we were thinking of somebody else. And so that's what I would recommend for folks out there. And I think we're going to see the transition back, where some of us will stay remote, some of us will come in. And I think for all businesses, as they consider reopening, if they can get ahead of the curve, if you're a barbershop, consider installing plexiglass in between each chair, and announcing that and sharing that and putting content out there to show what are you doing when you are ready to open. And if you're open, what are you doing now to alleviate fears? Because I think the perception that you're being proactive is going to pay dividends, and it's going to get that consumer confidence back. And that's what we really want.
All right, thanks. And our last panelist, Kim Pedrick, and Kim operates 2 retail stores. And Kim, I understand you have not been open, but you're building up right now to be able to start doing more online sales.
Exactly. During the transition, I have taken more to Facebook, Instagram, and doing things on those social media avenues, a way to actually reach out to our customers. I've done videos, which is something that I never had done in the past, but it's trying to give them information. I took a bunch of our Idiom clothing home and I did a closet clean out within my closet. I gave them tips. So just trying to do useful things and also be a potential bright spot in somebody's day during this time. I also took the time and have been wanting to do a website more for Dwell. So took advantage, as Roberta was saying, of this time when I'm usually running around and don't have a lot of time to do the behind the scene things. So took advantage of this time and working on building the website that way. So just really trying to pivot in a way that's also authentic to my businesses. And both actually ran a little differently. Idiom being clothing, I was pivoting in a different direction than Dwell, which is more gift items, which we've done care packages and people still need baby gifts and stuff. So more selling on for that business.
Let me start with a follow-up with you. Have you given any thought if the some of these restrictions are lifted, you can start having customers in your store? What's that going to look like if, especially, I would assume there'd be capacity limits, things like that.
Exactly. I definitely have started thinking about it. We've always had lots of racks of clothing in there, trying to maximize the space. I think that would be the first thing, just taking some of the racks out and just making it a little easier to walk through the store. Definitely keeping the 6-foot distance, masks for employees. The counter my employees always laugh at me because I always say, from out behind the counter, got to get out into the store. That creates a barrier, right? Going forward, that barrier will be a perfect barrier between the customers and us. I also am transitioning to the tap payment method over at Dwell so that we will not need to use any exchange if somebody prefers not to. So definitely thinking of those things and trying to be proactive in these next couple of weeks to get ahead of that as we do go into the next phase.
Great points. Steve, let me go back to you. Restaurants are so much about the experience, especially both of the properties that you have in New Haven here. What are some of the thoughts that you guys have if you are able to start having customers in the building?
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Great.
Got it. So, obviously, like Roberta said, this period has given us an opportunity to pause and reflect about, what is our business model, and, how do we make this experience, to spin on what Kim said, make this experience still authentic while making it a successful pivot. Moving into reopening, obviously, we'll need to think about table spacing. We'll be probably open in some limited capacity. I'm sure there'll be some sort of a capacity thing. We are lucky because all of our restaurants have some degree of outdoor seating. And I think, to be able to utilize that, I think it might make people feel better if they're kind of outside, and, especially at Shell and Bones, where we have those huge nano doors that open wide. So you're half inside, half outside, and that'll just kind of make the place feel, really open and spacious. And the same thing with the Geronimo as well. We have the outside seating areas, and that will definitely help. I still think that delivery and takeout have now taken on a role of their own. And, in places that weren't doing delivery and takeout, I think that that's still going to be a major facet of the business. So, we've really had to think about, how we sell authentic experiences through delivery, through carryout. And then finally, through all of this, I think something that some of you have touched upon as well is, how we treat our employees now. is really going to be a factor of how things go when we reopen, you know. And I know that I've taken multiple opportunities to reach out to the staff that are laid off, just to connect with them on a personal level and to say, you know, how's it going? You know, what are you doing? Is there anything I can do? And, you know, some of the staff have reached out to me personally, and, you know, I always tell them, you know, my phone never shuts off, you know, I'm always here. And, you know, it's just, you know, I know that, like, you know, I would like that to be the same, you know, if someone said that to me, you know, I just, you know, it's tough, you know, and it's tough with a lot of uncertainty. And, you know, but I think we all, the restaurant community has to do its part to, you know, stick together. And, you know, we are all in this together, and we're just going to have to take it one step at a time. And, but we will get there, and we will get reopened. And I think everybody's ready for sure.
And following up on that theme of employees, and Sherry, you and I had some conversations, especially early on, about, you know, what do you do? There really was not guidance at first about temperature taking and is it effective? I saw we had a question about, you know, well, if someone has a temperature, is it already too late? They've already been spreading the virus. You know, I don't think that there's one right answer. It's just doing a lot of things. And what's the response been from the employees on those kind of health measures that you guys have been trying to take?
Actually, they've all been very appreciative, and because they know that we're doing everything we can to protect them as well. At first, maybe there was a couple people that are like, whoa, you're taking my temperature. And then they realized the more information that kept coming out, how we implemented it early on, because we knew even if we could catch that one person, and obviously we consider privacy as well. So that's why I'm the one that's taking the temperature. I'm not really asking any of the other individual or any supervisors to do that. So if for some reason they would go over the 100.4, I just, you know, they already know ahead of time. We posted in a memo, if you do have, you know, 101 fever, we ask that you just turn around and you go back out to your vehicle and go home and call me. And then we follow our regular procedure on where we're going to go from there. And because people were concerned, they're like, well, everybody's going to know, you know, that I was the one that, you know, was over 100.4. And so as much as I could keep that private, you know, I've done that. So.
Oh, that's great. Roberta, you know, you were mentioning this, and I think it's a really good point, especially for the reopen, because, you know, a lot of things are open. Obviously, they're not open the way that we expect them to be open, but a lot of businesses have some footprint out there. But really, it's getting people to spend money, and that's only going to become, that's really only going to happen when people have confidence.
Mm-hmm. And that's a major issue. We're dealing with something that we can't see. So that is, you know, as humans, we like to see, feel, touch, right? And so we're dealing with something that we can't see, and so it makes us feel very uncomfortable. So I think the way that we combat that, and I know that we're going to be talking about that as we build strategies on how to reopen Connecticut, it's going to be lie heavily on communication, strong communication, transparency, and accuracy. So the media is a powerful force, right? It's a powerful force either way. And so I think that as we start giving data, facts, and again, having those strong communications, that will help to calm the fear factors, as well as when they see what we're doing to try to contain it. Now, people are afraid of what they're not knowledgeable of. So once you become knowledgeable of it, then you have a sense of calmness. So I do think that over a course of time, that we will have that under control. I do.
Ramon, a couple questions for you. How can any business start to try to give that sense of confidence to their customers? And also, what are you seeing as far as businesses really starting to use social media a lot more than they ever did before? Maybe it was something they didn't want to really get into before. Now they're forced to.
Yeah. I think Roberta mentioned communication. I think now's the time to over communicate and overshare, put out content that's valuable, but also show what's happening in your business. I'm actually seeing the presidents of companies, Ben Carbone, I mentioned Modern Plastics, but he's always on social media promoting his products. He'll link his salespeople to the posts, but he's doing it himself. And I think that's doing a lot to show a human side to his business. Right now, we need more empathy, more compassion, emotional wellness checks are something that I've started doing in my staff meetings that I didn't do before. And I think that's something that's going to remain on as a legacy. But I think businesses now just need to show how they're doing business. I had a conversation with a home inspector. He's part of the Home Inspector Association. And I said, if you show an inspector coming into a home now with in effect would be a hazmat suit, I think it would relieve the anxiety of people to say, okay, this business is still being conducted, it's just going to be done in a different way. So we're not going to go back to how things were. That we can forget about. I've come to terms with that. So what's that new normal going to be? What can we look forward to? And I think businesses need to continue, first of all, sharing that their team is intact, if they are intact, but also showing how they're conducting business today, what changes they're making, and you can utilize social media, particularly LinkedIn. I think over the last 6 to 8 months, whatever they've done has increased engagement. Their algorithms are different, so you're going to get a lot of traction from your posts there, especially if they're business related. Problem with Facebook is that it's cluttered with everybody's lunch and everybody's political views and so forth. But if you're a business owner, LinkedIn would be the platform that I would highly recommend that you utilize to show what are you doing in your business, what are you going to do, how have you pivoted your business, what new verticals have you created. I mean, 6 months ago, Carvana was probably looked at as a dumb idea when you drove by and you saw in effect a vending machine for cars, and now you're looking at auto dealerships looking into home delivery. So that crazy idea that might have been crazy 6 months ago may have to be revisited now because it might be the way that you operate going forward.
Thanks. Mike, there was a question out there about what is the city doing collaborating with other partners, especially major institutions. I know I can just say at the top, I mean, we are very fortunate in New Haven and this region to have the hospital, Yale New Haven Health, and Yale University, who both have not had major layoffs or any layoffs to speak of right now and are continuing to employ a lot of people. So those are the real anchors of our economy here. But what can you say about some of the collaborations you've had with them and other major institutions?
Well, first and foremost, the panel, those were such outstanding insights. I'm having trouble keeping up as I'm writing on paper again and not typing. It's just really wonderful to listen and hear these insights. It informs all of us. And to the point made, so we've got 3 basic lines that we're working on: direct COVID response, our continuity of government to make sure that we are serving our residents through code inspections. We're out in the field on many construction projects right now. The regular run of governance is working here in the city, particularly on the development side. And then the last piece, this economic bounce back. And both the hospital and the university, incredibly strong partners. Our Together New Haven coalition includes the Chamber, the EDC, the Town Green, Yale Hospital, to sort of organize ourselves on what this bounce back looks like. And it's sort of interesting how many of the comments we just heard are consistent with that thinking. And I won't go through all of the different insights, but I will say one thing that we're drawing from is the academic talent at Yale to learn best practices, what's happening around the world. To Roberta's point, you can't see this. And it is the first time we've had a challenge that you cannot see. So what are the global insights about that? And what are the market strengths of New Haven, which will allow us to bounce back strong? And as I had mentioned at the opening remarks, I think it's very important for all of us to recognize we're dented. We are dented through this crisis. We're strong in academics. Yale is 14% international. SOM, a school at Yale, is 40% international. So our bounce back will need to take quite a bit of extra effort in order to seize the market strengths that we've talked about quite a bit, like bioscience, neuroscience, the innovation economy here, social impact technologies, and what's happening at DPH at Yale. These are global leaders that are helping communities across the world navigate the crisis. See, click, fix. some of the work at the Yale School of Public Health. This is informing the world. And I think that's an area, to your point, Ramon, about verticals, that New Haven is not yet amplified about the quality of the work that's going on here and how it helps so many other communities.
I'm going to see a few questions about the office environment and what people will do. So Sherry, maybe let me start with you, because I know you guys have had to acquire PPE. What has that process been like? Has it been easy to get masks, things like that? Because we did have a question about, what do you do with the individuals who have tested positive, but they're not showing any symptoms or signs? So we're assuming there's a lot of people who are in that situation out there, don't know it. I know the masks really are not so much for yourself not to get infected, but to not spread it yourself if you have it and you don't realize it. But what are you seeing on acquiring PPE right now, Sherry?
Actually, it was pretty difficult to find masks early on when this started, maybe I think it was a month and a half, 2 months ago. I had just placed a small order of 100 just to have them in case somebody would want to use them, not knowing obviously that everybody was going to have to wear them. So we recently received a connection through somebody knowing someone, because every other place, you can't get them on Amazon or eBay or any of those. It's weeks out before you receive them. So we actually did find someone, such a local contact, that was able to acquire them for us. So there's definitely different pricing out there as well. And obviously you buy in bulk and you're going to get a better price. Seeing limits of minimum of 1,000 at a time. And if we're wearing masks going forward, ordering 2,000 or 4,000 masks, they will go quickly. But we've also seen some creativity in some of our employees, making their own. I would say at least a quarter of our employees are enjoying making their own masks and color coordinating. I have to say that, I color coordinated myself this morning. So it isn't easy, especially when it comes down to Lysol wipes and hand sanitizer as well, tacking on PPE.
Thanks. And Ramon, I saw you answered some of the questions on here about office space reconfiguration. It's kind of the same thought process about how you redesign yourself here, your business. How do you redesign your office space?
Yeah, I think we're going to see the idea of cramming people into workspaces like sardines is just going to have to change. We're going to have to give people the same social distancing in the office. I've even read some cases where people are staggering teams so that certain teams work remotely on certain days and other teams work on site, and that way you can mitigate some of the risk. But I think we're going to see a transition, and there's going to be a breadcrumb trail to this working remotely as we transition back into the office. I think we mentioned before, it won't be a switch that gets flipped on or off, but I think we're going to see a transition. And then of course we're going to, a lot of things can change daily basis. Vaccines may come out, you never know. So I think we're going to have to do this gradually and ease back into that new normal.
Roberta, I know you're mostly on the residential side, but you do some commercial as well. You have any expectations on what's going to happen to the office market? Do you think people are going to come back to offices, or they're just going to want to stay at home?
That is such a good question, Garrett. And I have been thinking and pondering, and actually I was at a verge of acquiring a commercial building that we were going to do co-working space with. And I will have to say I don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling about that. I wish that I could say something different, but I really don't. I am predominantly on the residential side. The commercial side, there are going to be some things that we just still have to do from the office, but I don't think that it will be utilized in the same manner. So this is where our out-of-the-box thinking, our creativities, our mindset, business mindset, our entrepreneurial mindset would have to go into activation on what else do you do with this space? How do we best utilize this space and create streams of income? So I don't want to, as we said, the new normal does not have to be all doom and gloom. The new normal will cause creativity. And so I think that the commercial space will just have to be reconfigured, as Ramon said, and strategies on how do we still continue to create streams of income in using commercial space.
Kim, let me ask you this question, and I'll throw it to Mike too. So much of New Haven derives off of the students being in town. Obviously, the school's let out for the rest of the semester. No one knows what's going to happen in the fall, but that's still a big question hanging out there. You know, are the universities going to have their students come back for fall semester? Maybe just tell us, how big of an impact is that for downtown retailers, restaurants, the universities being in session?
I think it definitely will have a large impact. However, I think it can be counterbalanced by our local population really realizing how important shopping local, dining local, just being local is. So I think we can offset it to a certain extent and not have it be a very negative impact to us going forward that way.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
Just to Kim's point, some immediate strategies that can help that along. So with our Together New Haven poster program, if businesses are not yet online, we are supporting people going online to buy local now through gift cards or e-merchandise opportunities. And let's all take advantage of that to catch up to some of the work that you're hearing on this call, because digital will be a significant part of the revenue stream going forward. I think we have to start planning for that. Then the second part of it is expanding the reach. And I think we learned through the Together New Haven work and arts, culture, and tourism on our side, every business downtown might have 1,000 or 2,000 direct followers, their core group, and it's such a dedicated group. But even if the Yale community is everywhere, and there's 140,000 living alumni at Yale, we can expand the reach and the social reach to spend money locally by getting online and finding the population that's attached to New Haven elsewhere. So I bought for my nephew a wonderful sweatshirt from a kid from New Haven. I would have never found that business unless we collaborated together. It's just, you know, one that never reached my screen, and it's a great sweatshirt. I don't need to buy a LeBron sweatshirt now. That part of the effort, right, is to be local and understand the value in our community.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to get to the close here. So I want to have each of our panelists just comment, you know, very briefly, what advice would you give to all businesses out there as we enter into this new world about, you know, and I say that understanding that so many of our businesses right now are hurting. You know, some people online may be thinking about, you know, that they've got to close their business, just not going to work out. But on a hopeful note, what kind of advice would each of you give to all of the other businesses out there? And I'll start with you, Ramon, and then we'll go around to all of our panelists.
Okay, I will say we need more empathy and be flexible and be compassionate, both with your team and your employees, but also with your clients. We're allowing and expecting longer time for accounts receivables to come in. That's just the reality. We're being more flexible in our negotiations. We're factoring in the relationship a lot more than we used to versus the actual project. So be flexible, be compassionate, be more human. We're all in this together. Don't give up and reach out. There are many resources out there that want to help you. You're not alone. Talk to another business owner. Sometimes only another business owner can understand what you're going through. So definitely reach out and speak with someone else before you pull the plug, because you may find a way to figure this out and get through it. And I think we can do it together.
Thank you, Ramon. Appreciate it. Kim?
I would say just be positive and look for those bright spots during each day. It's an unsettling time for everyone, and nobody knows exactly what's coming next, but just take each day and look for those bright spots and be good to each other.
Thanks, Kim. We appreciate it. Sherry?
Well, I agree with all of the above, but also I want to add communication is so key. I mean, we're all in this because of our employees, and they want to, you know what's going on, even though we don't know every minute of every day. But be that compassionate employer and speak with your employees. And it's best to over communicate and make sure that everyone, to let them know that we're here for them and that we want to keep everyone safe.
Thanks, Sherry. Steve?
You know, for the restaurants, you know, we've been specifically impacted by this crisis, and just, you know, obviously that theme of solidarity prevails, but also, you know, to really, you know, we are a hospitality business, and we are focused on hospitality, and this really gives us a challenge to, you know, how do we really dial in the hospitality to really give our guests what they're looking for? And so it really, you know, I would say just continue to listen to your customers, listen to your employees, you know, really take that feedback to heart, and you know, and think about how you can you know, push forward with it. It's not only the right thing to do, but it's also good business, you know, and I think just to you know that we're going to get out of this, and we're going to be sipping martinis outside one day.
Great point. Great point. Good image to have. Thanks, Steve. Roberta, let me turn to you.
All right, so we're going to have patience on a number of scales, payment, flexibility. I'm going to encourage every business to tap into their innovative top side, utilize technology, and understand that as business owners, we created something that at one time was in our imagination. Everything that was ever created was created 2 times. First in the imagination and then in the real world. The business that you created was created in your thought process first. Go back to the essence of what created your business and recreate it for such a time as this. That is going to be one of the things that I'm going to leave with you. The other thing is that I'm going to say that the world is based on the law of polarity. There is no right without a left. There is no hot without a cold. There is no up without a down. I wouldn't be inside my house if there was no outside of the house, which means that every problem ever created will have a solution that goes with it. Every problem has a solution. So we have to understand it's going to take patience for us to have that solution. The last thing that I'm going to say is that I understand how we are wired. In school, we're taught a lesson. The teacher teaches a lesson, and then they give a test. But right now, we're working in a world that's a little bit backwards. And we've always worked in a world that's backwards, where we get the test first and then the lesson. Right now, we're in the test. And there is a lesson to be learned in this test that we are in. But the only way that we will ever learn from any test, any trial, any obstacle, anything that has us unsettled, is to do what I said before: pause, reflect, and pivot, and know every situation, every problem comes with it a solution and a great opportunity. And so that's what I'm going to leave with you.
Thanks, Roberta. You got me fired up. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, I love this is what I do. I do my speaking. I love it. I believe it.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Great points. Great points. Mike?
Oh, I'm not following that. That's the last,
Sorry about that. I know.
that's the last and best word, Garrett.
Well, I want to thank everyone who's been on the panel. Roberta did mention, really honored to be on the Governor's Business Advisory Task Force, talking about businesses and reopening. You know, I can say that there's a real urgency from the governor on down to get things moving safely. Obviously, that's what we all want to do, but we all know that the economic activity is really critical as well. And so we're taking that message, we're taking what we're hearing from you and bringing that to the governor's attention and to his task force and everyone that's involved with it so we can get moving. So again, thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to AMS Practice Management for being our sponsor today. We really appreciate it. We have more webinars coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk about contracts and leases and what you need to know to navigate that area. So stay tuned with us. And everyone have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Great job.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.